Hulk versus the X-Men, Mutants versus Monster. There were moments in history when the balance between power and reason tilted too far in one direction. This story, buried beneath layers of classified records and whispered among the most trusted minds, began not with a declaration of war, but with silence. An uneasy silence that settled over the Xavier Institute like a storm cloud ready to break. The Hulk had vanished from the radar for weeks. Rumors had filtered in from far-flung corners of the globe. A green blur seen in the mountains of Tibet. Tremors reported in the Australian outback. Craters found in the uninhabited forests of Canada. None could confirm. None could deny. Then, without warning, the quiet was shattered. A tremor, subtle at first, like the earth exhaling, rippled across the mansion grounds in Westchester. Birds scattered. The trees along the perimeter bent as if bowing to something ancient and wrathful. And then the sky cracked open with a bellow that was more fury than sound. He had arrived. The Hulk. No one knew what had drawn him there. Some said it was anger, festering and directionless, searching for the next target. Others believed a deeper force had manipulated his path, steering him toward the X-Men not for vengeance but for proof of strength, or perhaps survival. The initial clash was swift. Colossus was the first to meet him, a wall of metal muscle against emerald fury. He launched himself into the fray, confident, solid. But Hulk was not the same beast they remembered. There was something refined in his rage now, something more focused, more surgical. His fists landed like meteors, each strike reshaping the battlefield. Colossus held his ground as long as physics allowed, but when he fell, the earth felt it. Storm moved next, summoning the skies to fight for her. Lightning crackled against Hulk's skin, thunder wrapped itself around his roars. Rain fell like glass, slicing through the momentary haze. But Hulk did not yield. The bolts illuminated his silhouette in jagged flashes, painting him as something closer to myth than man. He leapt, an impossible arc through the storm, and the skies scattered in his wake. The X-Men regrouped, their tactics changing. Wolverine, claws gleaming with primal defiance, flanked the monster with precision honed by 1,000 battles. He struck deep, again and again, his speed a blur, his growl a promise. But Hulk absorbed the pain like fuel. With one swipe, he sent Logan hurtling through the trees, his body broken but spirit unyielding. Beast tried reason, if not in words, then in action, deploying traps designed with exacting intellect, attempting to slow the brute, confuse him, calculate his every move. But Hulk was past logic. He shattered every theory with sheer brute rejection, as though rage alone could overwrite science. Jean Grey stood back at first, her mind brushing the edges of his, searching for the man within the beast. But what she found was a labyrinth of pain and fury, coiled around a core of grief so dense it threatened to pull her under. She saw glimpses of Banner, yes, but buried beneath layers of anguish too thick to reach. When she attempted to press further, Hulk's mind retaliated, instinctively shielding itself with a psychic backlash that sent her reeling. It was not a battle. It was a reckoning. Nightcrawler darted through the chaos, teleporting between dimensions, trying to misdirect, to confuse, to tire the Hulk out. But exhaustion was foreign to the creature. With every passing moment, he seemed to grow stronger, as though the very resistance he faced only deepened the well from which his power drew. Even Cyclops, tactical and stoic, found himself staggered. His optic blasts carved molten trenches into the battlefield, and still Hulk advanced, each step louder than the last. It was as if no force, no strategy, no mutation could stand against him. The X-Men were legends, yes, but so was the Hulk. And still, they stood. They fought not because they believed they could win, but because they must. Because to retreat was to surrender the world to chaos. Because every mutant knew the burden of power, and every X-Man knew the responsibility of resistance. As the battle wore on, the grounds of the Xavier Institute were transformed. Craters pocked the landscape. Flames danced among the ruins. The training fields became a war zone, and yet the students, the youngest among them, were kept safe. That was the unspoken victory, the line they refused to let Hulk cross. Eventually, as twilight bled into the bruised sky, Hulk began to slow, not from injury, but from something deeper. Amidst the shattered remnants of trees and stone, amidst the groans of wounded warriors rising again and again, something in him paused. He stood amid the wreckage, breathing like a storm breaking, and saw them still standing, bruised, bleeding, but unbroken. He looked at them, truly looked. The team before him bore more than scars. They bore each other. Mutants, outcasts, protectors. They didn't fight for dominance. They fought for harmony, for balance, for those who could not fight at all. And in that moment, the fury in his chest met a memory of a man in a lab coat, of hope once nurtured, of a dream that hadn't yet been crushed beneath fists or rage. Then, without a word, he turned. The ground sighed beneath him as he leapt away, vanishing into the thickening dusk. The X-Men did not follow. They watched in silence, not with triumph, but with a quiet understanding. They had not defeated the Hulk. No one ever truly could. But they had endured him. And in doing so, perhaps, they had reached him. Not with words, not with powers, but with resolve. In the aftermath, the mansion would be rebuilt. The wounds would heal. New students would arrive, unaware of the day the monster came knocking. The files would be sealed. The story passed down in shadows, spoken only when necessary. But among the X-Men, the tale remained alive. Not as a warning, but as a reminder. Power without purpose is a tempest. Strength without control is a curse. And sometimes the greatest battles are not won by force, but by the willingness to stand, to protect, to resist, no matter the odds. Hulk had come for something. The X-Men never learned what. But in his eyes, before he left, they saw a flicker, brief and fleeting, of the man within the monster. And that was enough.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe if you like videos like this. Thank you.